Thank you for joining Pioneer. I'm Chris with Norman Public Library Central, and this is the third video in our series on the Swift computer programming language. In our last video, we learned about arrays, and we learned how to use a for loop to loop over each one of the elements in the array and print them out. I left you with a challenge last time, and your challenge was to make an array with all of your family members in it, and then use a for loop to print out that each one of those family members is awesome. Here's my solution to that challenge. I create a variable called myFamily, and add each of my family members to it. And then for each person in my family, I print out that they're pretty amazing. Here's my code after it's run, and it says that each one of the people in my array is amazing. Hopefully your array has your family members' names in it and not mine. Today, we're going to go even further into using for loops. I'll create a new Swift playground. And I'll call this one Lesson 3. And once again, I'm going to go ahead and delete the code that Apple has put here automatically because we don't need it today. I'll begin by creating another variable, and this one is going to be called SumNumbers. And SumNumbers is going to be an array that has some numbers in it. I'll put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then leave my closing square bracket. You'll notice that when I'm using numbers, I don't put double quotes around them. I only put double quotes around strings, that is, things like words. If I put double quotes around my numbers, I won't be able to use them to do math, which is what we're about to do using Swift now. I'll give myself a few blank lines, and I'm going to create a new variable. What we're going to do is we're going to loop over all of our numbers, and we're going to add them up. So I'm going to create a variable called sum of some numbers. And I'm going to start it at 0, and that's very important. If we start it at a different number, or if we fail to start it at anything, our program won't work. So make sure you set sum of some numbers to 0 if you're following along. Next, we need a for loop. And I'll say for number in some numbers, and an open curly brace, just like last time. But this time, we're not going to just print out our numbers. We're going to add each one of them up. To do that, I'll take sum of some numbers, and here you can see I'm using autocomplete to prevent myself from having to type in that long variable name. And I'm going to use the plus equals operator. That means that I'm going to add whatever I have in number on to whatever is currently in sum of some numbers. So remember, sum of some numbers starts out at 0. And the first number in some numbers is the number 1. So I'll take 0 and I'll add 1 to it. Now, even if you're not very good at math, you probably know that 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. So after this loop has gone one time, it should have the number 1 in it. Now, sum of some numbers contains the number 1. And our loop goes around and pulls the number 2 from some numbers. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And so now sum of some numbers will have the number 3 in it. We'll loop back around, and both number and sum of some numbers are 3 at this point. So 3 plus 3 is 6. Now sum of some numbers is 6. I loop back around. I take the number 4. I add it onto 6, which will give me 10. And then I loop back around again. I'll add on the 5, which will give me 15. To make sure all of this is working properly, let's add a print statement. And our print statement will just print out sum of some numbers. Then, at the very end, let's add another print statement. And in fact, let's make it one of those fancy print statements where we can say the total is, and remember, if I put something in here after a backslash and inside the parentheses, like sum of some numbers, then it will print it out there. Let's give this a try and see what happens. And sure enough, after the first time through my loop, I have a 1, and then a 3, and then a 6, a 10, a 15, and we've correctly calculated that the total is 15. So, congratulations, you've learned how to use a loop to add up a bunch of numbers. For this week's challenge, I'd like you to change those numbers so that they're more complicated numbers, numbers with decimal places in them. For example, 1.1 or 2418.72 or 3.14159. So change your numbers to have decimal places and see if your code still works and writes out whatever their total is. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.